Hello and welcome everybody to, according to Andrew, number 46, the 2020 Junior Classics. Recently, I got the first three of the Junior Classics, and so I wanted to kind of do a review of what we've got so far, and kind of give reasons why you should get them, and just talk about their overall quality and things like that, because they come in great quality. I'm going to have the leather bounds coming, so I will give a review of those when they show up. Um, but that will be further in the year, and I'm not exactly sure when that's going to be. Um, Also, this is going to be the last podcast till 2020, so I wanted to end on a good note and talk about something a little bit more uplifting and what we can do to rebuild Western civilization, a la good reading material. Um, so the first three books. So we got fairy tales and fables, we got myths and legends, and we got tales of Greece and Rome. Now I've only read a couple of stories from the fairy tales and fables, but they're so good. Oh man. So some of them like I've read and like I recognize. One was like a thorn. It was some of the Aesop fables. So I'll just kind of do a brief. So there's a couple different sections. You have classic fairy tales, Hans Christian Andersen's Tales from Europe, Tales from the North, Slavic tales, Irish tales, and I hadn't heard of any of these Irish tales, and my heritage is primarily Irish, so I read through those. Those were really fun. Um, Tales of the American Indians, Tales from India, Fables of Aesop, which there's a bunch of them, but they're all like really short ones, and they're like the kind of moral of the story kind of ones. Um, so they all end like pretty much all end like it's easy to propose the impossible remedies, or self-conceit may lead to self-destruction. Better no rule than cruel rule. Um, and it's just one bad turn deserves another. They're just and you've probably heard a lot of these and have heard of them before, but some of them are just really good. Actually, the one that's on the cover of this one it might be hard to see with the light, but there's a fox that's looking up at a bunch of grapes, and he's trying to reach it. And the story goes that he's trying to reach it, and he's jumping and jumping, and he can't quite reach it, and he just kind of gives up, and he's like, forget it anyway. And here we go. Let me just read the story because it's literally like a paragraph. Uh, One hot summer's day, a fox was strolling through the orchard till he came across a bunch of grapes just ripening on the vine, which had been training over a lofty branch. "Just the thing to quench my thirst," quoth he. Drawing back a few paces, he took a run and jump and missed the bunch. Turning around again with 1, 2, 3, he jumped up, but with no greater success. Again he tried after attempting morsel, but at last he gave up and walked away with his nose in the air, saying, "I'm sure they are sour. It's easy to despise what you cannot get." So it's just like things like that, and there's plenty of them that are longer in there. But it was just really heartwarming and refreshing. I think they really nailed the what they were going for with these. The So just to kind of give an iteration, so they have an introduction and a preface. So they kept the introduction for the 1918 version. They kept which is what these books are based off of. They kept the preface for the 1918 version. It's only found in the first book. The other ones don't have this preface. And then they do another preface for the 2020 version, and they're really kind of encapsulate what this whole thing is about. Which is preserving Western civilization. So the 1918 one goes through, and it says, you want, there must have been a small excerpt from there. There must have been fairy tales or fables or folk tales or myths or whatever name we choose to give them ever since the world began. They are not exclusively French, German, Greek, Russian, Indian, or Chinese, but they are the common property of the whole human family and are universals as human speech. And when you read through these stories, you kind of see that. You see these, and the reason that they kind of are reiterated and hit on all the time, is the same reason that you kind of see those same parallels run through the Bible all the time. It's because you're just telling eternal truths through story, right? And it doesn't matter what culture you're a part of; these truths are true. Now there might be some variance here and there based on certain things. A good example of that is the Irish ones that they went through, where they were it seemed like the Irish lived in a low trust society because the 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 main protagonist seemed to always be kind of like a deceiver. He seemed to have some chutzpah and kind of stuff around him. But it was always started by the other party, right? It was the other party that wanted to take the ticket, that was being greedy and stuff like that. And because they were blinded by their greed and their avarice, they were tricked into doing foolish things and having not being happy with what they had. They lost it all, kind of thing. Um, and that's a good lesson to not just for kids but for everybody. And yeah, just the reading of it, it's very enjoyable, and it it kind of sparks the imagination, as it were. The text is pretty big. I'd say at least 12-point font kind of thing, and decently spaced. It's probably like 1.15 spacing, which is actually like my preferred spacing, or maybe 1.5 spacing. Anyway, it's spaced enough that it doesn't get crowded, and the words are big enough that it's easy to read even if you're older and have a hard time reading. I really like the size. Basically, it had ultimately been agreed upon to go with the Royal Octavo, and I was kind of going back and forth as to whether or not that was the right call. It definitely was the right call. They're great. The outsides are nice. The It's kind of like that textbook um, hardcover setup, and they work really great for these. The pages are not like that glossy stuff though. They're real like kind of parchment pages, but I really like them. They're one thing that due to like the leather-bound books, I get the Castelia Library books, and I like them. But the one thing is the pages end up being so thick because they have to be gilded, and I kind of like the fact that these pages are a little bit thinner. Maybe 100 years from now they won't hold up as well, but for the immediate reading, I do actually like it quite a bit. I'm kind of curious as to how they're going to be with the next set of books, the leather bounds, how those are gonna be, if it's gonna be a heavier paper or not. Um, but they're already kind of thick. But yeah, it's not too bad. I think it's this first one's about 400 pages. Yeah, a little over 430 pages. But they have like all the tales read super fast, and they have, I don't even know how many tales in here. Uh, Most tales don't go up beyond 10 pages, so they're really quick reads. They're great reads for kids. These are directed toward for teaching kids how to get into the love of reading, which is the whole point of these things. They're uh, I think they're going to be great. I might take a peek at some of these other ones, but this was great. And you're getting, um, you're not just like part of Western civilization is one of the aspects of it is not just like kind of the grandeur of itself, right? It always tries to look at other cultures and pull from other things and see what stories or fables and stuff like that is useful for them. Um, that's why one of the great there's a list of like all the best 100 books that every working man should read. Um, and on that list was the Bible, but also on that list was the Quran, which is kind of interesting because it's not that's technically not a Western literature book, but the person recognized the usefulness of the teachings within that book and suggested that it is something that could really help expand the mind and the understanding of the world, and that these people had a different viewpoint of things. I also think he had a couple Eastern books on there for suggestions. So it's really cool that it pulls from all these different varied cultures and stuff like that, because there are things that they can teach you. Uh, so then in Myths and Legends we get into some more of those kind of things. So in this one we got Stories of the Northern Sagas, Brigaldia and Siegfried, which I don't remember if I've ever heard those. Story of the Lohengrin, another story that I'm not too familiar with, and so I'm excited to read. Tales from Europe, uh, Stories of the Arabian Night. This one I was actually really looking forward to. I might actually read this after this. And so in here they have Ali Baba and the 40 Thieves, Aladdin and the Lamp, and Sinbad the Sailor. That's the one I actually really want to read. I think it'll be interesting. And then the last section is the Tale of Sampo, where you have and under that is subsections: Mistress of Minstrel, the Tree of Magic, the Smithy, the Temptress, the Recipe, the Cauldron, the Forging of the Sampo, the Homesick Hero, the Famine, the Weeping Ship, the Triumph of Music, the Flight, the Pursuit, and the Fate of Sampo. Uh, and I'm not exactly sure what culture this is from, but it's again you got all these things from different, and a lot of it's still centered around Europe a lot, but uh, it's good to see that there's kind of these other influences coming in. And then so the last one is Tales of Greece and Rome, and I actually had to kind of chuckle at this because it really just seems like Tales of Greece with a little bit of Rome thrown in. But anyway, we'll go through. So we got Greek myths, and it goes through a bunch of those. The Voyages of Argo, the Trojan War, and it's not the full Iliad and Odyssey. It's basically a chunked down version of it. Um, and they also have the Adventures of Ulysses, which would be the Odyssey, but that only goes from page 229 to 309. So that's about 80 pages all told. So much more shorter than the classic epic, but you still get like basically the full kind of story. You have the Lotus for the Ulysses story. You have the Lotus Eaters, Ulysses and the Cyclops, Circe's palace, Ulysses and the Sirens, uh, Nausicaa rescues Ulysses, Ulysses and the swineherd, the return of Telemachus, Ulysses is in his new home, the trial of the bow, and the vengeance of Ulysses. And so you got basically the full thing, and the way these are chunked out, you could just do small sections of these and be like, this is all I really wanted to read about. So then the next one is the Wandering of the Aeneans, is the next section, and then the last section is the founding of Rome, and that's really the only Roman part in this. Mainly because a lot of Roman religion and stuff like that, and mythology basically pulled directly from Greece. So in that regard, the founding of Rome is kind of one of their only original mythologies that they have. But beautiful all around. Absolutely stunning work that they've done on all of this. And I'm really, really glad that they were able to pull this off. And I'm really looking forward to the next series of books that'll be coming in. Um, so yeah, hopefully that kind of gives you a small recap of what these are. Bit shorter one today. Just kind of way to just end out the one. I don't think they all need to be 40-minute diatribes. So yeah, that kind of covers the junior classics. I highly recommend them if you're doing homeschooling stuff and things like that. These have really been restored to their classical roots of ways to get kids interested about reading and teach them about classic literature and Western civilization. And they're definitely worth the investment in your child's future. And maybe if you're just curious about some of these stories and want a little bit easier, if you're not a huge reader and kind of want an easier introduction to some of this stuff, this might be a good place to start. Just like for those that are new to the Bible, a lot of times children's Bible can be a good introductory thing to just kind of get the bigger picture kind of stuff taken care of, and then you can work on the minutia later. I think the junior classics are a great way to start. If you're not familiar with many of these fables or some of these myths from other areas or histories, the mythologies of Greece and Rome, these are a perfectly reasonable spot to start, I think, and they definitely don't talk down to you. They're an enjoyable read no matter what age you are. So I'm really blown away by it, and I'm glad that they put the amount of effort that they did in, and it really shows. Anyway, thank you guys for listening to this one, and hopefully you guys go out and get yourself a copy of the Junior Classics. I think you really owe it to yourself, and I think you'll really enjoy it. Anyway, I have been Andrew. This has been According to Andrew, and I hope you guys all have a good day. Goodbye.